despite having such a long history in this country, we are not the ones you think of when you think of Americans. And very often, people don't take the time to even distinguish between who is Chinese, who is Korean, who is Japanese, and so on. And now we
That little soundbite, I bet, was missed by a lot of people. But for this video, I will touch on this topic that I think a lot of non-Asians are not aware. And I think even Asians themselves are not aware, especially if they were born in America. Okay, if you're Asian born, Asian American that's born here, you likely don't really know the full history of your race. But speaking from someone that was not born in America, I think I can shine in more depth to this issue where that little soundbite is something that is a big hurdle, a big obstacle for Asian in general to overcome. I don't have the answer, okay? I just want to bring this to the forefront so that we can discuss it. So, welcome to my channel. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for future video, okay? That's gonna be a main topic for this video and perhaps a few more because I can talk about this issue for hours. Not all Asians are the same. One of the biggest misconception that non-Asians have is that we are all the same. Sure, I know not everyone think that way, but in general, that's why the model minority myth is a big problem. And this is not isolated to Asians only, okay? Other shade of skin color or other race also face similar issues. For example, Middle Eastern region, okay? And hear me out. When it comes down to social problem, racial problem in America, if a black person is mistreated, you will likely will see a united front of outrage. But can anyone here tell me if a person from the Middle East, let's say an Iranian, ethnic Iranian person, is mistreated, do you think there will be an united front of outrage from people with Middle Eastern ethnic background in this country? Because the Middle East comprised of what? A lot of ethnic race. You're talking, even today, within Libya, Iran, Iraq, you have multiple factions, groups of people, ethnics, that dislike each other, right? That's one of the things that non Middle Eastern people in this country can't seem to understand. That's why we think, in general, the US think we can solve the problem in the Middle East. We think there can be peace. We hope people can get along when there are centuries of ethnic problem, hatred, distrust, mistreatment that still exists today. So if a Middle Eastern person, whether he's a Libyan, Iraqi, Iranian, is mistreated in this country, you are not going to see a massive united front of every Middle Eastern race come to the forefront to speak out for him. Does anybody here disagree? When is the last time a Middle Eastern person get mistreated and you see an endless loop on CNN with large outrage demonstration across big cities? When is the last time? Or how often do you see that? Okay, so this is not just Asians, but I'm just giving you one example of how another race also face similar issues, and Asian face similar issues. Okay, there are ethnic pride, racism, ethnicism, prejudice, you name it, among Asians with each other. So you're not, and you have not rarely seen an united front until recently with Stop Asian Hate. That was the one rare occasion that I witnessed an united front across the country in major cities, on CNN, on other news network. That's the first time that I can remember seeing that living here in America since 1980. There have been others, but they are far and few in between. Okay? One of the biggest misconceptions that I try to correct as often as I can whenever I heard non-Asians talk about Asian and trying to lump us in as one group. We are not alike in so many ways. There are things that the West, non-Asians, just completely ignore. Completely ignore. The same thing with the Middle East. The history is rich in Asia. The history is rich in the Middle Eastern region. But somehow in America, we like to just ignore the history of that region, both regions, and think that we can just lump everything into one. Everyone can get along, peace and love and all of that. That's not the case. The Asian regions have been misunderstood for so long. You know, if you, regardless of what country you're from, okay, I'm Vietnamese, so I grew up in Vietnam and I understand Vietnamese history, so I'm not about to give you lecture on every Asian country as if I know. But I can tell you this, if you travel to Asia or if you live in any Asian countries long enough, you will notice one thing. What is that? The upper class in many countries, from Indonesia to Malaysia to Vietnam to Thailand, tend to be ethnic Chinese. Tend to be. I'm not saying they all are ethnic Chinese. There are plenty of successful, rich people in any Asian country that are not ethnic Chinese. But you see more of that than others. Why is that? Because China ruled that regions for a long time, centuries. Okay, so the ruling class of many countries in that region, from Malaysia to Indonesia to Vietnam, was Chinese for a long time. So over the many decades, centuries, it passed down all money, okay? For that region, all money in Asia are mostly Chinese. it is not a surprise to see the upper class, the higher tier in many Asian countries to be ethnic Chinese. It's no different than, say, in this country, okay? I'm trying to use an analogy that makes sense. It's no different than in this country where if you go to the South, the old money are the white people, okay? Not to say that not every white person that live in the South are rich or wealthy because they are descendant from a slave owner. Not saying that, but the old money tend to be descendant of the master class. Okay, and then you have, of course, today is different. There's plenty of not well-to-do, lower class, middle class, of all races in the southern region. So over time, things change. Same thing with Asia, okay? Over time, things change. So there are plenty of wealthy, successful, non-ethnic Chinese people in all Asian countries, but the ruling class of century past does have the influences and the wealth in many Asian countries. Okay, so that's a quick, hopefully sensible overview of that area in some way. There are so much more to talk about, but because of that, there are some mistrust, some dislike, some prejudice. It exists in every region, okay? It is silly to even think that racism exists only in America. Racism, ethnicism, prejudice exist in every region of the world. That's the way, sadly, that's the way we are. That's how humans see things. I don't think I have an answer or solution to break that mold, okay? But that's the way we are in general. It is not a nice thing, it's not a good thing, but that's how it is. So to lump all Asian as the same is just silly if you understand the differences between many races in Asia, okay? This video has already run over 10 minutes, so I don't want to make too long a video, so there will be a lot more about this topic, but ultimately, I leave it on the hand of Asians in this country to educate non-Asians. There are so much about our culture, our race, that are so misunderstood. Thus, lumping us all in as a group, the model minority myth, is utter nonsense. Whenever I hear people utter things that fall into the category of the model minority myth, I am very quick to correct them because they don't know what they're talking about. They are seeing things through a very narrow lens. Knowing a few Asians does not mean that you know Asians. I would never presume to know Middle Eastern people because I have a few Middle Eastern friends. It's utter nonsense, okay? So the only thing that we can do as Asian in this country is to stand up, chin up, and speak up. How else would the world know or understand us if we don't do that? Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.